Welcome to HealthTech Hustle. We exist to share stories of the brave entrepreneurs helping to solve the most important problems in digital health today. We interview top leaders in health tech and bring them onto our show each week to listen and learn from their story. With your host, Rodney Hu, founder of 209 Digital.
Hello, and welcome to another awesome episode of the HealthTech Hustle podcast. Today, I'm joined by another very special guest, Miss Anne Garnier. She is the founder and CEO of Lisa Health. And Lisa Health is a digital health platform that's modernizing menopause and midlife women's health with advanced technology. They are empowering women to take control of this complex life stage and be visible, be loud, be healthy, and be strong. So with that being said, Anne, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Rodney. Thanks for having me on today.
No problem. So let's just jump right into it. Why don't you give the listeners a brief background of who you are and kind of what you're doing in the healthcare space?
Sure. So as you mentioned, I am the founder and CEO of Lisa Health, and we are in the femtech sector, but we're specifically focused on the menopause journey and using advanced technology to guide women through this complex and pivotal period of their life. But before I started Lisa Health, I have been in healthcare technology for my entire career, so over 25 years, as a senior executive and advisor to many venture-backed startups, several of which have become market-leading companies and have had very successful outcomes. So the health tech has always been my passion, and specifically around using the latest technology to improve patient outcomes and access to care. So I'm very passionate about helping people get better and thrive.
Awesome. And so Lisa Health focuses on a very specific market, a very specific niche, and that topic is menopause. So can you kind of touch on that topic and why you were so passionate about that topic that you went out and created a whole company?
Sure.
What did you see?
That's a great question. So I actually did a lot of work in women's health earlier in my career around pregnancy, fertility, and preterm birth. And when I decided to start my company, the advice that people give you is make sure it's something that you are passionate about, because you're going to be spending a lot of years working on this particular problem. And so when I was, running through all of the ideas I had, I just kept going back to women's health and saying to myself, I really want to do something in this space. This is really the space that I am most passionate about. But I looked at the femtech landscape and noticed that pregnancy and fertility were already really crowded even a couple of years ago. And, it's ideal as an entrepreneur if you can find the white space, where there is huge opportunity, but not a lot of companies in the space. And within femtech, that happened to be menopause. A few years ago, there are very few new entrants into the space. It was typically, pharmaceutical companies, a few medical device companies. And it just happened to coincide with my own experience of menopause. How fortuitous is that? And so the second thing, besides being passionate about a particular problem, solving a problem, is that if you have firsthand experience, that is even better. There's nothing like experiencing a problem firsthand for you to really understand the pain points. And so I had the experience that most women have, a disappointing, not understanding what's happening with my body, having a disappointing doctor visit, going to Dr. Google and getting even more confused, and just really feeling like I had to just figure things out on my own. And that is the typical journey for most women. And so I felt that there was this opportunity for technology to really solve for that. I mean, when you think about the fact that every woman around the world will go through menopause, which is a very complex life stage spanning, around 30 years, why should over 1 billion women be left to figure things out on their own? if we're applying successfully advanced technologies to other, virtually every other condition in healthcare, why can't we apply that technology to menopause? And so that's where I decided to focus all my energies on.
Nice. So you were passionate about femtech before you actually started this company. But the reason that kind of led you down this path was your own personal experience, right? So can you kind of walk us on that journey of going through this process, being able to identify the problem, but not really seeing any solution within the industry that you were satisfied with? So you went about creating your own solution and bringing that to the market and putting that out to women everywhere. And so can you kind of speak to that journey and what that was like for you?
Sure. So I thought I was one of the lucky 15% of women who skate through perimenopause without any symptoms. And so I was just, really sort of, really joyously celebrating the fact that I wasn't experiencing any of the typical symptoms. But at about a year post-menopause, so I had gone 12 months, consecutive months without a period, which is then you are officially then postmenopausal. All of a sudden, one day, I just got hit with a ton of symptoms, and I tell people I was like walking around my house like this sweaty day zombie, right? Hot flashes and brain fog and not sleeping well. And I'm a very high achieving person. So for me, there was just no way I was going to go, another day, like feeling like that. So I did what every woman or most women do is I made an appointment with my doctor. And unfortunately, other than offering me a prescription for hormone therapy, she didn't actually have a lot of other recommendations. It's not that I'm opposed to using hormone therapy. I think it's a decision every woman should evaluate independently. But I always like to try lifestyle interventions when possible for any health issue that I have. And we know now that lifestyle plays a huge role in so many conditions, from diabetes to cardiovascular disease, and it actually does play a role in menopause as well. But she didn't really have any knowledge around that, and that's very common. Very few physicians know much about lifestyle medicine, whether it's applied to menopause or any other condition. And so I left, and that's when I went on Dr. Google and on Facebook and said, okay, like what's out there? And, there's very little credible information, for women going through this period of their life. And so I was disappointed by that as well. And then I'm sitting there thinking, what am I going to do? And then I was like, oh, you're so stupid. You create healthcare products for a living. Like, you can figure this out. And so whenever I create a healthcare product, I always go and read the literature, what research has been done. And I found that while there isn't as much research as we would like on how and what lifestyle interventions you can apply to help manage your menopause symptoms, but there certainly is some evidence out there. And most physicians, including the experts, will tell you that for many, many women, they actually recommend 6 to 12 months of lifestyle interventions before trying any pharmaceutical interventions like hormone therapy. So it was kind of like with an N of 1 and a very detailed Excel spreadsheet, I started to track, all of my symptoms on a very granular level. I started applying different lifestyle interventions. And after about 4 to 6 weeks, I was noticing a significant change in my symptoms for the better, right? Where several of them had either gone away completely or they were well controlled, and so that they weren't bothering me on a day-to-day basis. It's like I had my old self back, but even a better self, because I had gone through this process of discovery.
Okay. So yeah, you're doing your own due diligence, your own research on how you can help yourself. And then with that newfound knowledge, you just started applying it and keeping track of your own symptoms and whatnot, and just how you can improve upon there.
Yeah, it's just like it's the very basic product development is, sort of research, paper and pencil, right? Experimentation with an N of one or just, a few people and seeing what the results are.
Yeah, definitely. And so when going about growing your company and you've already done the research, you've identified the problem and the solution, what sort of team and resources did you have to go out and find and bring together in order to bring your research, your ideas to life?
Sure. Well, so I have the benefit of having worked for venture-backed startups my whole career, and I've worn many, many hats. Believe me, I have worn almost all of them.
Nice.
So I have more skills in starting a company than maybe most people do. But that said, I can't stress the importance of team enough. And for me, a critical role is, finding somebody from a technology perspective who could pair with my strengths in product development and strategy and marketing and just generally scaling a company. So it is really important to recognize that starting a company, while it may start with you and your idea, ultimately it's a team sport. And you have to find the best players to join the team and play well together, right? And it's also, in an early stage, that's one of the biggest factor, if not, the biggest factor that investors make their decisions on is this a team that they think can win? They oftentimes make decisions based solely on team and less on things like, wow, is this a great idea, or they have a great product, or, because most investors know that companies will undergo multiple pivots, and so you've got to have a team that's going to be able to manage that.
Nice. Having that core foundation within. Okay. Nice. And so just to clarify, you're mainly for like B2C, right? Compared to like a B2B type of market?
We are currently B2C. Okay. We do think there's some opportunities in the enterprise market, but we're currently focused on the consumer market.
Okay, awesome. And so I guess my follow-up question to that would be, what sort of strategies have you used or that have stuck out to you to try to generate awareness towards women who are experiencing menopause and stuff like that? Just getting awareness around what you're doing in your brand.
Sure. Yeah. So when you go into a market that like menopause, where it's, shrouded in shame and silence, where there's a lot of stigma attached to it, and there hasn't been a lot of attention paid, you're in a very much a missionary position of having to educate the market on the issue and why it's important and why they should pay attention, and also to get women to start talking about it. So, really like a lot of small companies that are just starting out where you don't have a lot of marketing budget, you have to employ, a lot of sort of guerrilla marketing tactics, and social media is an excellent way to do that. So, you have to connect with your audience on their social media channels of choice, which, for my demographic is primarily Facebook, but Instagram is trending up as well for this demographic, and really connect with them. And you have to create a brand that resonates. And really, I think, talk about the things that, they care about that are important to them, and to do that with empathy, but also to educate.
Nice. And so you mentioned the platforms that you use. Facebook's number one. Instagram's growing as far as awareness and interest. But what sort of content are you putting out on these platforms to get people's attention? And once you get their attention, get them indoctrinated into your way of thinking and just the education style of marketing, so to say.
Sure. Well, so as I mentioned earlier, when you go searching around the internet or on Facebook looking for information around menopause, um, there's not very high quality information available, and some of it is actually misleading. There have been studies done on the lack of quality around menopause information that's available online. So we felt it was really important to address that gap and to create content that is both simultaneously engaging as well as educating women about what is happening during this pivotal period of their lives. So we've invested a lot in content that we have created versus using content that's out there that's not great, not really sort of representing menopause as we would like to see it represented, or educating women around the facts of menopause.
Okay. And then that content that you guys are creating versus just like resharing other articles that you see on Google, the articles that you guys are creating is based off of that research and all of that due diligence you guys have done in the beginning, right?
Yes.
That
yes.
kind of helps with the messaging.
Yeah, all of our content is evidence-based, and much of it is actually authored by leading experts in the space who've done the research around menopause over the last couple of decades. So we think it's really important for women to be able to trust their source of information. I think one of the biggest behaviors that we see around menopause is because women aren't getting information from their physicians oftentimes, and they're in this information seeking sort of behavior, and so they're reading everything they can to try to understand what's happening. And so we, as Lisa Health, we want to be the leading trusted brand, not only for menopause tech, but also for information and support. So you can join our community and know that you're being supported by people who have done the homework, done the research, and all the legwork.
Oh, okay, awesome. I think that's super valuable, and powerful as well as just having a community and creating that community, feeding content into that community, educating them.
Absolutely.
On your platform.
Yeah.
So, it sounds like you've done a lot of research. You got a lot of experience. You put the team together. You've done all this work, and you have your vision. You're going in the right direction. But as an entrepreneur, business owner, we all know nothing's always sunshine and rainbows. That there are ups and downs, obstacles.
That's true. That's true.
Okay. And so my next question for you is, are there any obstacles that stick out in your journey that you had to overcome, and how did you go about overcoming them, and what sort of lessons did you learn?
Well, any entrepreneur will tell you that, starting a company, it's like a roller coaster, right? Day to day, week to week, you have your highs and your lows, but it's important to stay positive. I always operate from this position of optimism, and to know that you always have options. When people say, I have this problem, but it can't be solved, every problem can be solved. There are always ways to solve a problem. You may not always like those options, but there are options. And so, I think for Lisa Health, we, like most female founders, you always face the challenge of raising capital. Because women are underinvested relative to men. Also, people of color are also an underrepresented, or underinvested group. So going into any kind of fundraising, you have to be prepared for the challenge that you may have to spend more time and talk to more investors than would be typical for like a white male, for example. And so I think, as a founder, that's always one of the things that you're most focused on is making sure that you've got enough capital to sustain the business and to hit your milestones.
Awesome. So yeah, that's kind of like the last question of the core content.
Okay.
Now we're coming up on the end of the podcast, so I like to finish the episode with a more lighter exercise, something I call the rapid fire round. And so I'm asking you a set of questions and give me whatever answer you come up with. Okay.
All right.
Question number 1: what is your favorite book of all time?
Okay. Well, that's a really hard one for me. My biggest fear of all time is being stranded on a desert island or anywhere for that matter and not having a book to read. So let me see. I'm a voracious reader. So picking just one is going to be really hard. So let's see. Maybe 100 Years of Solitude. But then I might say Cloud Atlas.
Okay.
Or I might say The Sellout. I don't know. It's really hard. So for me,
fiction.
I historically have been more of a fiction reader, but I've moved more and more to nonfiction and specifically around audiobooks. Part of that reason is I was just doing some commuting. And so, driving in a car, podcasts and, audiobooks, that's like the only things that you have if, you don't want to be on the phone all the time, which is gets tiring. So I found that nonfiction books on audio really was a great way for me to learn and to expand my sort of reading vocabulary.
Awesome. Got a couple good book recommendations in there. Next question. Yeah. Who is the most influential person in your life or career?
Oh, okay. So I'd have to say my mom. She was an early computer pioneer. And so she got me hooked on technology and gave me the gift of a very desirable, well-paying skill at a young age. So I can't thank her enough for doing that. It's paid off over my entire adult life.
Awesome. Shout out to Mom.
Yeah.
What is one goal you want to accomplish this year?
Okay. Well, so just one, right? No.
Give me them all if you want.
Yeah. So, professionally, we're gearing up to raise a seed round. So that's my goal to accomplish by the end of the year. But if I had a personal goal, I am just dying to go on a trip outside the U.S., as I'm sure many other people are, because I love to travel. It's a top passion. So I'm hoping to get out of the country before the end of the year safely. But right now, I think I have, more confidence in raising around capital from VCs than going to another country.
All right, fair enough. And then last one, what is one piece of advice you would give to your 20-year-old self?
Oh, well, that's easy. So travel as much as you can out of the country. Don't be afraid. Just go. I mean, you'll figure it out. I think from my perspective, every kid should have a gap year abroad for a year before and a year after college that should be paid for, because that life experience is irreplaceable. It's just a wonderful way for people to broaden their horizons, their perspective on the world, and get in touch with a side of themselves that they otherwise wouldn't if they hadn't had those experiences.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. Never thought of it.
Yeah. Book your tickets now.
Definitely. So, that's the end of the rapid fire round, which concludes the end of this podcast. I just want to thank you once again, Anne, for just jumping on and just sharing your story as an entrepreneur, as someone who's trying to make a difference in healthcare, not even health tech, but femtech as well, and what you're doing to empower women, and just showing other entrepreneurs out there what happens when you're really passionate about a problem and actually take action and try to make a difference. So thank you again. I found a lot of value in your story, and I know a lot of other people will as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me on. And I likewise am a fan of you and admire the work you're doing to promote healthcare technology. It's so needed. We need many more voices. And I am excited that you're a new voice on the scene. And so anything I can do to support you, I'm here to do it.
Awesome. Thank you. And then one last thing, where could people find more about you and your company? Where can
Sure. So they can visit lisahealth.com, Lisa, Lisa, HealthTech.com. Or you can follow us on Instagram at Lisa Health App, Facebook at Lisa Health App, Twitter at Lisa Health App.
Awesome. All these links will be provided in the notes below.
Yes.
Check them out.
Yes. Come and check us out for sure. We're doing an exciting, wonderful thing for women 40 and up.
Awesome. So that concludes today's episode. Catch you guys on the next one.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of HealthTech Hustle with Rodney Hu, founder of 209 Digital. Tune in next week for another interview with an expert leader in digital health.